Hey guys, today we're going to be putting a fuel screw on the DRZ400S carburetor. Now the carburetor on this bike already has the JD Jet kit installed, but I like the extended fuel screw, so I'm going to get back down to it and we're going to install this thing right in there. There you go, little fuel screw. And it ought to be pretty quick and painless. Okay, so the first step is we're going to remove the seat. I'm going to pull the seat right off. All right, next up, 10mm bolts right here. We're going to pull those off. Next up, we're going to remove 2 of the shroud bolts on each side. Just make sure to hold on to the little washers on them so you don't lose them. So we don't need to take these shrouds totally off, just the 2 on each side. Okay, next up, make sure that your fuel is in the on position. Prime will dump gas, and you don't want it on reserve, although reserve would probably work, but we're leaving it to on. You won't spill fuel other than what's in this fuel line here. So we're gonna remove this clip. And I'm just gonna break the seal right there. A little bit of gas, not much. Now what we'll do is we're going to pull the tank straight up, and there's actually a vacuum line. I might be able to get to it right here. There's a vacuum line right behind it that we're going to pull off. There we go. Now we should be able to remove the tank completely. Okay, after removing the seat and the fuel tank, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this air box cover, just to give us a little more access to the carb. Okay, next up, we're going to loosen these carb clamps. And I am just, a little fuel in there. I am going to loosen just the ones closest to the carburetor right now. If we need to loosen the second one, that's actually on the engine head, then we will. But I don't think it's going to be necessary for what we're doing. What I'm going to try to do is rotate the carburetor so we can work on it from this side without removing it from the bike. Okay, now the carb can be free to spin. Now remember, we've got our throttle cables hooked up on the other side, so let's remove those next. All right, so if you can see in there, looks like you can. Let me move it a little closer. You've got a, let's see, a pull, and then you've got a push cable. So we're going to loosen the top adjustment nut on both of those and then see if we can get it out without adjusting the stop on the bottom. That way we know all of our throttle settings will be the same when we go to put it back together. And these, I believe, are 10mm. Imagine that. There we go. Just kind of looking at things here. I don't think we're going to be able to do what I want to do with the carburetor in the bike. I think we're going to have to remove it. Okay, so I've pulled that over, and you just chase the cable down. There we go. That one's removed. And this other one, I think, yeah, we're going to have to adjust the bottom here, just to give us enough space to get it out. There's a little curve in the back. Oh, going the wrong way. There's a little curve in the back, and that's going to keep us from being able to remove this without adjusting that down. There we go. So that's all down. Now we're going to chase the cable down. And some needle-nose pliers come in handy here. Let you just grab that cable and manipulate it down to the bottom. There we go. You just have to pull that cable down. You'll notice in the throttle, whatever you want to call this, a throttle rotator basically, that the cable has to be in a certain area to be able to come out. And it's kind of a pain to get back in. but it's not too bad. Okay, let's go back to the other side and see if we can do this in the bike or if we have to just go ahead and remove the carburetor completely. Well, the bad news is we are going to have to remove the carburetor completely, but it's not too big of a task. So we're going to go ahead and take off this front clamp as well. And I'm going to loosen it up a lot, just so that we know it's not going to be fighting us at all. And I'm going to do the same with this. And what I'll probably do is go ahead and pull the clamp. And the reason for pulling the clamp out, at least the one that's closest to the carburetor, is it will allow the rubber tube, the intake tube there, to flex more and just make it easier to remove. Oh, almost got it. Oh, that's never good. Oh, there it is. Can we get it? Oh, look at that. Even got it. There we go. Now we're going to remove this one here. Let's see if I can grab it here. These things are pretty flexible, which is nice. Look at that, see how much it opened up? And it will flex right back down to where we need it when we go to put it back in. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is there is a connector behind this zip tie that goes to the carburetor. It goes to the little throttle position sensor right here. And these zip ties are made so you can pull the tab towards you and you can loosen it up. You don't have to cut that zip tie right there. Okay. Let's see in here. Kind of move some things around and find the correct plug. You should be able to, yeah, pull this out just a little bit. I've got a strap here for my tank bag that's all in the way. And is that the right one? That's the one right there. Push the tab down. And there we go. I'm going to fish this through between the frame and the carburetor. That way that doesn't fight us whenever we're removing it. Now I had this carburetor off actually a couple weeks ago, and I found that flexing this intake tube made it real easy to get it out. But let's see what we're going to have to do here. Yeah, you can see how loose it is now. Okay, over here, behind here. And that is the rubber. Now what I'm going to do is put just a flat blade screwdriver. If you have something dull, that's great. Kind of put it in between here and work this intake tube back. There you go. See, it's back there. I'm kind of prying it just a little bit just to kind of flex that hose out of the way. And look, I'm going to rotate the carburetor towards me. Look at that. Should pop out relatively easy. I'm kind of twisting it on the other end at the same time, just trying to get this thing rotated in here. And you can try, wiggling it, whatever you need to do. I need to try to get this intake tube the rest of the way, kind of pushed back out of the way. Okay, this is a really handy tool because it's not sharp, so we can get in here and push this rubber out of the way without worrying about splitting anything. You're not going to tear it with this. If you use a flat blade screwdriver, I would say you're likely to stab a hole in this. We certainly don't want that. I'm going to rotate it a little bit. There we go. There we go, look at that. That's so close. And you need every bit of room, so we're going to get this strap out of the way. There's not a lot of real estate in here. starting to free up. There we go. Just kind of looking around, just making sure we're not caught anything weird. That's it. Not too bad at all. All right, let's take this to the desk. Okay, now that we've got the carburetor out, this is the fuel screw. Now, a stock one will have a little brass plug that you have to actually drill into and then basically thread a screw into it so that it pushes itself out so you can access this. But yeah, so this has already been done. The plug has already been pulled, and this is what we're going to replace that with. Now, this one is an extended fuel screw, so I can actually adjust the overall lean or rich mixture with this right here. Now, one thing about this is that there's not a mark on it, so you don't know how many turns out you are, other than when you originally set it. But once you're, if you think about it, when it's in there and you're trying to turn it, you don't know where center was. If you turn it this much, how much is that? How much is this? How much is that? You won't know. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down to the basement. I'm going to take a cutoff wheel and I'm going to put just a little mark in it so that I know for sure, the orientation of this when it's in there. Okay, now you can see that I put just a little mark in it. That way we'll know when it's made a full turn. It'll be a lot easier. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is see how many screws out this is. So what we're going to do is we're going to screw this all the way in until it's snug and count how many revolutions that is. It should be, I think, 2.5 for this setup. All right. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, so just slightly less than 2.5. Okay, so let's unscrew this out. Just slightly less than 2.5. Just want to show you the correct orientation of the wheel screw. I know that it's a little blurry, but it's the spring, the washer, and then the O-ring. It came with 2 washers, but I'm just putting the one on there because everything I found online showed the same thing, just spring, washer, and then O-ring. There it is installed. All right, let's throw the carburetor back in the bike. Okay, so let's wrestle this carburetor back in here. Just kind of thinking of how it came out. I'm going to tilt the bottom end just a little bit. And I'm going to feed the front side into the rubber grommet on the front. And then we'll wrestle it in the back here too. Seems like the hardest, well, one of the hardest parts is just getting it by the frame. There we go. Now we just have to wrestle this back boot. And again, that's where one of these little picks, like what I'm using, works really, really well. It's just not sharp. You don't have to worry about stabbing holes in the rubber boot. And it's really easy to just work your way around it. Feels pretty good. All right, let's check it on the other side. All right, so the other side, the boot, got it on and put the cable back on, the throttle cable. One thing I'll tell you is whenever you're putting on the throttle cable, make sure to turn it all the way to the right and make sure that throttle snaps back. If it doesn't, your throttle cable is too tight, whether it be at the carburetor or where the routing is run down behind the number plate. But that is it. So I hope this video helped you out. If it helped you out, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of how-tos and adventure riding and all sorts of stuff. So anyways, thank you for watching.